Was Christopher Columbus the first person to discover America? We've all heard the story. On October 12, 1492, the Italian explorer landed on a continent that would later be known as the Americas. This event certainly changed the world. It kicked off a massive wave of European migration and laid the groundwork for modern nations like the United States, Canada, and Mexico. But to say, Columbus discovered America isn't just inaccurate. It erases a history that stretches back thousands and thousands of years. The truth is, when Columbus arrived, the Americas were already home to millions of people. These were the original inhabitants, the indigenous peoples, whose ancestors had been living on these lands for at least 15,000 years, and maybe even longer. So who were they, and how did they get here? Let's rewind the clock. The story of the first Americans begins during the last ice age. Picture this. Sea levels were much lower than they are today, revealing a massive land bridge connecting Asia and Alaska. This wasn't a narrow path. It was a vast, icy wilderness, hundreds of miles wide, known as Beringia. Groups of hunter-gatherers from Siberia began to cross this land bridge, likely following herds of large game like mammoths and bison. They weren't trying to discover a new continent. They were simply surviving, seeking food, and finding new places to live. Over generations, these early pioneers moved southward, slowly but surely populating both North and South America. For a long time, the earliest confirmed group of settlers were known as the Clovis people. Their story began in 1929, near Clovis, New Mexico, where distinctive stone spear points were found alongside the bones of mammoths. These artifacts were dated to about 11,000 years ago, and for decades, the Clovis first theory dominated our understanding of American prehistory. It was believed that these people were the ancestors of about 80% of all indigenous peoples in the Americas. But science is always evolving. More recent discoveries have completely upended the Clovis first model. Archaeologists have found evidence of human presence in the Americas that predates the Clovis people by thousands of years. Sites in places like Monteverde in Chile and the Buttermilk Creek complex in Texas have yielded artifacts dating back 15,000 to 16,000 years. And some evidence suggests humans might have been here as far back as 20,000 years ago, or even earlier. DNA studies have confirmed this, showing genetic links between modern indigenous populations and these ancient peoples. They didn't just disappear. Their legacy lives on in the diverse cultures that flourished across the Americas long before any European ship appeared on the horizon. So, we know indigenous peoples were the true first discoverers. But were there other visitors from across the sea before Columbus? The answer is a resounding yes. Let's fast forward a few thousand years and travel north to the icy shores of Canada. About 500 years before Columbus was even born, a group of seafaring warriors from Scandinavia landed on the coast of North America, the Vikings. Around the year 1000 AD, Norse explorers, led by figures like Leif Erikson, sailed from Greenland and established a settlement on what is now Newfoundland Island. We know this because of an incredible archaeological site called L'Anse aux Meadows. Discovered in the 1960s, this site contains the remains of Viking-style timber-framed buildings, an iron forge, and artifacts that clearly point to a Norse presence. It's so significant that it's now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. What were the Vikings doing there? The evidence suggests L'Anse aux Meadows was a base camp for ship repair and a place to spend the harsh winters while they explored the new land they called Vinland. It's unclear if they intended to stay permanently, as their sagas mention conflicts with the local indigenous people, whom they called Skraelings. Whatever their intentions, their stay was relatively brief. But the fact remains, Europeans had set foot in America centuries before Columbus's famous voyage. The story doesn't end with the Vikings. There's fascinating evidence of other transoceanic contacts. Let's head to the Pacific. A 2014 genetic study revealed a surprising link between the people of Rapa Nui, also known as Easter Island, and Native Americans. The DNA evidence suggests that there was contact between these two groups around the year 1280 AD. It's mind-boggling to think about Polynesian navigators, masters of the open ocean, crossing thousands of miles of water in their canoes to reach the shores of South America, or vice versa. This wasn't an invasion or a colonization effort. It was likely a cultural exchange, a meeting of two worlds that we are only now beginning to understand through modern science. And what about other theories? You might have heard the claim that Chinese explorers reached America before Columbus. This idea, popularized by a book called 1421, The Year China Discovered America, suggests that a massive fleet led by Admiral Zheng He sailed to the Americas in the early 15th century. Proponents point to things like alleged Chinese anchor stones found off the California coast and stone carvings in Arizona that they say resemble Chinese characters. However, it's important to note that most mainstream historians and archaeologists have largely dismissed these claims. The evidence is considered circumstantial at best, and there's no definitive proof, like a shipwreck or a confirmed settlement, to back it up. While the idea of a massive Chinese fleet reaching America is intriguing, it remains firmly in the realm of speculation, not accepted history. So, let's bring it all back. The idea that Christopher Columbus discovered America is a myth. The continent was already a vibrant, populated world, home to millions of people with rich, complex societies that had been developing for tens of thousands of years. They were the first discoverers. Then came others. Vikings from the east, Polynesians from the west, all arriving in waves, driven by curiosity, necessity, and the timeless human impulse to explore what lies beyond the horizon. Columbus's arrival was undeniably a pivotal moment in world history, but it wasn't a discovery. It was an encounter, one that had profound and often devastating consequences for the people who already called this land home. Understanding this fuller, more complex history doesn't diminish the significance of 1492. It enriches it, giving us a more accurate and respectful picture of how the modern world came to be. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this journey through history as fascinating as I did, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next adventure into the past. We'll see you in the next one.